What's the crack, everyone? It's Ollie from B2B Sports here. On this News Bite episode, we're here to talk about, does Bazball work with the elite cricketing nations? England got hammered in the third test against India. England were beaten by over 400 runs in the end. A truly embarrassing performance, to be honest, considering the position where we're at in England's first innings, going really, really strongly with Ben Duckett at the crease. And to fall that hard is pretty woeful, to be honest. This part in the video, please can I ask that you subscribe to this channel and give this vid a thumbs up. It really means the world to me and keeps me motivated to keep producing more content for you guys. Back onto the cricket now. I think it's time to address whether Bazball is the right method for England going forward. There's been a lot of talk about Bazball in the media. Bazball is truly fascinating because it brings out so many opinions on Test cricket. When we win, Bazball's fantastic, it's the best thing in the world. When we lose, Bazball's reckless, there's no plan in place, and we completely capitulate against the big sides. I'd just like to address my opinions on the matter. There's no doubt about it that the Brendan McCullum and Ben Stokes link up has completely transformed English cricket. In fact, it's completely transformed global cricket in a sense. It's brought more eyes onto the sport. It's made Test cricket, which on some occasions can be perceived as dull, to be this exciting new brand of cricket, and really is pushing Test cricket back into the forefront of people's minds and back as the real pinnacle format in the sport. If you look back 4 or 5 years under England's previous coaching and captaincy regime, the standards weren't good enough. You had a world-class batsman in Root that was continuously carrying a poor and inconsistent England side. As a cricketing nation, we weren't competing with the biggest sides in the world, and it needed revitalising, let's be real. I know that we've lost a couple to Australia and now India recently, but overall the record is still genuinely a good record. It's a strong record, and it's a record that most England captains and management would be proud of. I think in particular where this Bazball era has worked really, really well is the opening partnership. Ever since the days of Andrew Strauss and Alistair Cook, we were looking for a solid opening partnership that can beat off the new ball, that can get England off to a good start before the real playmakers, i.e. Root and Ben Stokes, can come in and really build on a good score. Zach Crawley was in and out of the side and he showed promise, but never really maintain consistency in the top order. But I think bringing Ben Duckett into the mix as well, a bit of a yin and a yang, they bounce off each other quite well. A really tall, slim build of an opening batsman in Zach Crawley and quite a short, stocky build in Ben Duckett, and I think they just gel well together. One right-hander, one left-hander. They attack the ball, they're aggressive, and when they get going they can score big. And it's just so refreshing to see that England quite often generate a partnership of 50 for no loss, whereas under the Dom Sibley, Rory Burns regime, it was quite often you were seeing Root come into the crease at 22 for 2, for example. I think the opening partnership for England has really grown from strength to strength, and that's something I definitely advocate Bazball for. In terms of the middle order, I do think that under the Bazball regime it has been a little bit inconsistent, the scoring, and this is where some of the psychologies under this regime can come into question a little bit. How aggressive are you willing to be with your shots? How early on do you want this aggression being implemented? There's been a couple of occasions recently with a couple of shots that Root has played in this test series so far against India, where has he thrown his wicket away a little bit? We know Root is such an elegant, gracious player at the crease, and when he's in, he can score runs for fun. It was absolutely fantastic to see this reverse ramp shot that we saw in the Ashes. But is there a little bit of a question to be asked here, where is that the right shot to play at that right time? When Bumrah is charging in at you in the first over of your innings, is it right to try and play a reverse ramp or a slog sweep or whatnot when your eye's truly not in it? That's a question that I would probably ask. And with these inconsistencies in the middle order, it really damages what could be a really, really big score on the cards for England. Speaking in terms of the middle order, I think Jonny Bairstow has really struggled recently. His scores in the test series in India haven't been to the usual Jonny Bairstow standards. Obviously he's coming off the back of that very serious injury a year or so ago, which must have an effect on his ability to move in and around the crease. It just feels like sometimes with the Bazball era, in these elite games against your Indias, your Australias, your New Zealands, we're always relying on one moment of brilliance from one specific player. And when that specific player doesn't pull through, then we've got no chance. It'd be so nice to see a collective effort. Imagine if all of these players produced this top form, this Bazball form that we're used to seeing, then this side would be unmatched. Ben Stokes has done it time and time again when there's been a collapse and he's had to steady the ship and he's carried this England team. We haven't seen that yet from Ben Stokes in this series. I think he scored 150. Other than that, his scores have been limited. Obviously, we're speaking in hindsight after the first 3 tests, and batting in particular in these Indian conditions are extremely difficult. So you have to take these inconsistencies with a pinch of salt, I suppose. I think ultimately the right decision was made bringing Ben Stokes into the side. I think that he's an incredible wicketkeeper, probably one of the best in the world, if not the best. His batting isn't necessarily on par with an in-form Jonny Bairstow. I do think that his wicket-keeping abilities and his ability to make that low catch, that low percentage catch, definitely gives an advantage to the England bowling attack, that's for sure. And there's a question to be asked when Harry Brook is ready to come back into this England side. Will Jonny Bairstow keep his place? I think Brendan McCullum does like Jonny Bairstow, and we know the relationship that Jonny Bairstow has with Ben Stokes. So it'd be interesting to see the dynamic there, but in my opinion, I would like to see Harry Brook back. He's an explosive young talent, and I'd just like to see him build on that. It's difficult. The England lineup is very competitive. Ollie Pope is back playing at a great level, and so there's lots and lots of competition for spaces. But when you have a test series like Jonny Bairstow is having right now in India, questions will be asked, unfortunately. We've spoken before about England's inexperienced young spinners, and although they've done a magnificent job in this series so far after the battering they took in the first test, I do think our bowling attack is slightly weaker in comparison to India's. Obviously, they've got a world-class bowler in Bumrah. Ashwin in these conditions is almost unplayable too. Jadeja is a cracking all-rounder as well. And so this England's attack almost has to work twice as hard to be able to compete with the Indian bowlers. Some of these pitches probably aren't the best for Mark Wood's style of bowling. He likes a nice grassy, fast wicket. A lot of these conditions are built for spinners and seamers who can move the ball left or right. And so I think that's hindered England's tactic. We've seen in the past with Bazball, Ben Stokes likes to get a big score in early, declare, and let the opposition go into bat just before the end of play to try and take a few quick wickets. And that's not necessarily come to fruition in this series so far. Obviously, England have been a little bit unfortunate with the injury to Jack Leach, which has put more pressure on the shoulders of Hartley, Rayhan and Bashir. It'll be interesting to see whether Ben Stokes comes back to bowl in the 4th test. He's hinted at a return. Whether this will be too early of a return to bowling, we shall see. But I think if he does come back, that'll be a huge boost to the England lineup. Ben Stokes, we all know, he's a big time player, big game player, and he takes vital wickets when England need him the most. Staying on the bowling side of things, Jimmy Anderson is still performing at such a high level, but because he's 41 years old, his spells probably aren't as long as what a seamer in their prime should be. I just would love Jimmy to get his 700 wicket in this series. I think Mark Butcher made a great point about Joe Root and his inconsistencies in the bat over the past few days. Joe Root has been practically playing as an all-rounder in this series so far, bowling a significantly high number of overs in comparison to what he usually bowls. Is that having an impact on his batting ability? Is a great question. Only he would know the answer to that. But his high output bowling figures is a lot more work than he usually is taking on. Overall, Bazball, of course, is a great thing for English cricket. In my opinion, it's only put Test cricket on the map even more than it already was. I think for me, I would just love Bazball to be a little bit more precise, a little bit less chaotic and frantic, and a lot more tactical, I suppose. Pick your shots wisely, pick your moments wisely, realise and adjust when you're in the game in comparison to when you're chasing the game. I mean, that's a lot easier said than done. Of course it is. But when India have set a total of 400 and in the first innings you've batted really, really well to get to around 200 for 2, don't throw away your wicket. Take a little bit of time, soak up a little bit of pressure and play your shots when there's a shot to be played. Don't go chasing when you've fought back to that position. There's evidence that Bazball has only added to Joe Root's game, only made him better and I second that. I hear that for sure. But I'd just like to see him play his way into the crease a little bit more, play them shots down to third man that he's so well known for, the less of trying to chase the ball down the wicket, because at the minute Bumrah's got his number. But no, there's no doubt about it, Joe Root is England's greatest ever test batsman, and it'll only be a matter of time before he's back scoring centuries and double centuries for England. It's going to be a tall order for England to win the series against India, but roll on the fourth test and let's see what happens. But let us know your thoughts on Bazball so far. Let us know your thoughts on the England versus India test series that's going on right now. But yeah, cheers for watching and listening, everyone. Up the England, and peace out.